Hello and welcome to Wehry Dads. I'm your host, Pete Wehry, with my co-host.
That is Peter Wehry, Senior Dad.
The dad in Wehry Dads.
Yeah.
And I'm the junior dad?
No, you're a dad. We're dads. We're doodads. I don't know why we said that.
What we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
I'm excited about this. We tried this, and to be honest, we spent a lot of time working on the studio. This is our first in-studio video episode. I'm excited about it.
We have a studio.
And we have video. So you can see our beautiful, gorgeous faces. But what happened was...
I didn't think the faces. I like the cool Wehry Dads, manhood, mentoring, and maturity. A Candid Goat production.
It's like professional or something.
Well, it's better.
We tried to shoot this before, and I had spent the whole day setting up the studio, and I could tell it was rushed. I could tell
I was
the
rushed.
episode,
I know I was rushed.
Yeah, both of us had been pushed by the day, and so I think that's going to come up.
Why is that interesting? Because what is our whole build to last, and we're going to talk to you about living and making your life run by principles, which will help you narrow down decisions, so you'll take less time with decisions. You don't have to deal with decisions because you've already got some set principles. So we did the podcast, and you came to me and said what?
Oh, it was hurried, it was rushed, it wasn't very good, and that's the way I felt about it. Even afterwards, we were both kind of unsettled about it. I sat and thought about it. It was 20 minutes long, which, you don't always go by feelings. You don't want to ignore feelings.
Or you don't always go by time.
Well, but when you have feelings plus time, I'm like, I felt rushed, I felt hurried,
and
like I was
rushed.
just getting it done. And then I look at, that was shorter than normal. Okay, it was rushed.
So what we're going to talk to these folks about is we made a decision, but it was already really not a decision because it was already made. It was a principle. We're not going to put out something that's what?
Not worth it.
And rushed and not worthy. So our decision was made for us.
And that's where I think the short version, and I love that you said it and you gave that kind of explanation, is that we are replacing decisions with principles. This isn't that you won't make decisions, but that you'll make decisions so much easier and so much quicker if you have a whole matrix, a set of questions you have for yourself.
To sift through it all.
Exactly.
So as we say that, it will minimize decisions. They're already kind of somewhat made because of the grid, and I liked your word, matrix. All right, so you can have a matrix grid, but anyhow,
you could think if that messes with you, you can think toolbox. What's my decision toolbox? There's a whole bunch of different heuristics.
I don't like the toolbox, the grid, and matrix.
You know what? Good. We'll go with matrix. That sounds great.
So by a principle of that we try
have
to
video. They'll see me bending backwards, dodging decisions. That'll be good.
Yeah, the bullets of decision. But with all that said, you're laughing, but with all that said, you're still going to have to make some decisions in life. But if you have this toolbox, matrix, grid of principles, it will limit those decisions, and it'll make the decisions also that you have to make quicker and more due north. You'll know where you're going. And so we're going to talk about principles. And PJ, when we have talked about this, had 3 ideas. I want you to tell them those 3 ideas, and then I'll probably jump in and ask you to illustrate them too.
Well, in respect to creating this kind of grid based out of principles, this isn't very technical, but I think it's helpful to break it into 3 different kinds of principles. You have values, which are very universal, high level, that help you and govern everything else. For every Christian, that's going to be love God and love others.
Easy. And that does help us with a lot of decisions in life.
Yes. And if you move from there, you'll see that your values should extend down like a root system. You have the central root, love God, love others. And then you have everything you have. It's like, well, I value community because I value loving others. I value family because I value loving others, right?
Can you give us the illustration? Because I have an illustration too.
Well, for me, value, like when I talked about values, I was thinking love God, love others. That was the illustration. And that was allowed me to talk about this kind of branching out, this root system where you make decisions that ultimately lead back to the central purpose of your life, which for us is building God's kingdom. But you have something to say, I could tell.
Well, no, I do, but you're part of this whole principles, which has led us to make a very impactful decision. So many of you don't know this. My mom is struggling with memory loss. And so this is really going to be a different podcast that we even directed to go, because when PJ just said that, love God, love others, Lisa and I were away this week. And so we were praying about how we're going to help mom. PJ and Becky have been extremely involved in that, as well as my immediate family, my sister Kathy, my sister Patty, sister Debbie, Lori, and my brother Jim, who lives in Maine. We've all been in contact about this. So our value is family matters, okay? Not a TV show. It really is. It's our family matters. And that is a principle that we have. Yeah. And
which we trace directly back to love God, love others.
Right. It's a scriptural principle.
Yeah.
So we have made a decision that Lisa my wife, is going to sacrifice some of the travel that she might do with me for our ministry. And we've communicated it with our ministry, and they're great with it because she's going to help more with my mother. Everybody's on board with it, but this was driven by a principle, and that principle is what PJ said, that cool value, love God, love others. And my wife said to my mom probably 25 years ago, I will do all I can to take care of you as long as I can in regards to health and wellness and so forth. So, folks, that helped us with this decision.
Yeah, and I think the good follow-up to that is for people who do send parents to a home, the idea isn't to judge them.
No, not in any way.
Because we were considering that because grandma's seriously deteriorating.
Right, and
my mom gets to a point where she can't handle grandma because she needs a facility, that's also okay. But the thing is that mom at this point can, and if she can, she will.
That you caveated that in, I appreciate it, because there's listeners out there going, we're not guilting you, we're not even. So what the truth was, is my mom was looking at going in assisted living, in talking to the doctors. We got wisdom of this, not only of our own family, but from professionals. They said, we think that's honorable, we think you can do that. But there will come potentially a time that she will still need to go in. But and we are going to revisit this constantly. But the point is, for this podcast, as we're striving to build to last, is sometimes decisions have to be made, but other times principles simplify that decision. So values is one. What's the second one?
Second one is proverbs.
Okay.
And proverbs. So the third one is rules. Rules are things that you rarely, if ever, break. And those are, so let's start with that one. And I think we'll shift to proverbs and that'll make sense. For me, a rule is I don't drink coffee after 3.
Okay.
And they generally very specific, and they're things that you have discovered about yourself. So I've tried to drink decaf because you and mom like to drink decaf. Aunt Patty likes to drink decaf, and I love coffee, and I want to drink it with you guys. And if I drink it after 3, I am up till 2, even decaf. And I've discovered this, and it's not worth it.
So this is a rule.
Yeah, this is I just don't do it. Every time I've broken it, I have regretted it. And it's gotten to the point where I just never break it. I'll try the things.
So
I'll
it's
do
an easy
tea.
decision.
Yeah, and so, but that makes my answer easy. I don't stop and think when someone's like, "Hey, do you want coffee?" I'm like, "No, I don't drink coffee after 3." You know, it's implanting, and this will come out with Proverbs too. It's implanting ideas in your mind and scripts so that when you talk to somebody, you can explain your reasoning very quickly. And so I'm just like, no, I don't drink coffee after 3.
Sometimes you don't even need to explain it.
I mean, I can say it simply and explicitly.
Right.
Proverbs, on the other hand, are things that are not exceptions, are things that are not exceptionless. They're just general guidelines. For us, we say Fridays are free. That's in our company. And so we don't say you can't put meetings on Friday, but we discourage it, right? And what we have found is if we discourage it, some Fridays we have stuff, you know, I do podcasts. I have guests who need to be on there sometimes, right?
We have a bit flexible
clients,
with that one.
you have to be flexible. But if I make Fridays are free, I try to find another way. And I often can put it so that my Fridays are completely free. And so one of two things happen. I either get a lot of work done that day, which sets me up for the weekend, or if I'm ahead on work, then we take family days. And that's what happened this last, I had a podcast in the morning, but because of the way we had set things up, this last Friday, we got to go to Harry Lou Gardens with the boys. And it has been a crazy couple of weeks. So we hadn't had a lot of time with the boys, and we went to Harry Lou Gardens. It's 50 acres of cultivated gardens donated to the city of Orlando. It's gorgeous. And they had a dragon exhibit. And we walked around with the kids, and it just blesses you.
The boys were in dragon heaven.
Yeah, so I was too. I'm 33. I'm not too old to enjoy that yet. I don't think anyone ever is.
Yeah,
you're not a big dragon guy.
I'm afraid of the dragon. I'm not the dragon slayer. All right.
You had another point that you wanted to make with this, though.
No, I think of different principles that we have set. One, I'm very fluid with this. And somebody would say, well, then it's really not a principle because of my ministry and that I have to travel. But usually it's only when I travel. I don't schedule a meeting before 9:30. That allows me to get from 6 to 9:30 big rocks done.
Yeah.
My reading, time in the Word, prayer, reflection, journaling, and then I get an hour of exercise, 45 minutes of walking, stretching, whatever with your mom, and then I'm showered and ready for the day. Now, I will, if I have to fly out because I have to be somewhere, that'll fluctuate, but I will try to keep a block of time. When I'm on the plane, I can do my journaling and reading and all that stuff, but I try, now I have principle, I want to every day try to walk at least 45 minutes to an hour.
Awesome.
All right, so that is a principle that I have set that guides some decisions. Hey, coach, can you meet for breakfast? Hey, I really can't this month or this week, this time. And I think that allows me some control of and boundaries for my schedule, which, folks, some of you are going, I have to make this decision. Should I go to this event or something? Well, if you have principles already set, because we're probably talking on this podcast to someone that's way too busy. And sometimes busy is a choice. They'll say it's not, but really it can be, because there is a big, and we've said this before, word is no. Another thing that we do is your mom and I will meet, and I've probably mentioned this on the podcast before, but I think we review our week on Sunday night so that we set, this is a principle we set. And again, back to it's almost like a proverb because it's not a complete, like it'll fluctuate if I'm traveling, but overall we'll meet.
Yeah.
And by the way, we spend 15 minutes to a half an hour reviewing the week. I can't tell you the stress that relieves, because then you don't go, oh, I got to get here. Oh, I have to be there. You have the car? I thought I told you.
Well, that's the proverb is that if you take the time to achieve clarity,
yes,
you'll save time on the back end. And that's what people a lot of times like, I'm going to wait till the last minute and then just do these things. And then they end up wasting a lot of time because they haven't thought through what they're doing.
No question.
Right. And that's kind of, and you can think of it in terms of a rule with, you're like, we do this every Sunday night unless I'm traveling. Right. And so it comes out in these specific applications. When you're talking about interpretation and just how you deal with the world, there's kind of like those universal things, those big ideas. And then there's very particular things like, okay, I want to eat healthy. That's kind of in between those two things. And then it's like, what does healthy look like? I make this dish every Tuesday night. You know what I mean? It's like you have to find those very specific applications.
Good. I mean, I think that makes all sense to our listeners. Do you have any other thoughts as you're sitting here going like this? Okay, what are some other principles that you think you have laid down in your life in regards to your family that solves a lot of decision making?
Well, where I wanted to go was not necessarily my family; it was my business.
Oh, that's. But I think that is. Yeah, it's a family business. So
this is true.
And by the way,
it comes up in my family too. But
when you make that decision for business, it affects your family. So tell me some. So tell me some of those on business.
Well, you know what? Actually, it's true. I use it with family too. I just find this proverb really helpful. It's kind of twofold. One is make dead things as efficient as you can, and allow living things to be inefficient. And I think efficiency is ultimately what is the cleanest and shortest path to your purpose, right? A hammer doesn't have feelings, don't need to talk to it. I'm going to get the hammer that gets the job done, whatever that tool is. And if I need to cut down or break something to make it work better, it doesn't matter because it's a dead thing. But when you talk about living things, and particularly people, one of the things that distinguishes something that's alive from something that's not alive is that they have their own purposes. And so what ends up happening is I'm in meetings and I have a purpose for being there, and most everyone else does. And then someone will start doing something that doesn't match the purpose that I have, and their purpose isn't clear. And it might not even be clear to themselves, because not everyone is as good at creating this efficiency, right? Like people are gifted that different way. But if you give them time to at least understand, then you achieve, it pays off in the long run. And I wouldn't say even in efficiency, you are valuing what you should value by giving weight to other people's purposes that may even not match your own.
So in regards to principles and decisions, your principle on that is what? You said it.
The value is people matter.
Right.
Right? Like that's
And so your principle is if it's a dead thing, you don't
just break it until it works, right? Like I don't care. If I'll run my computer into the ground if it's more efficient to do that. I don't care if my computer works or breaks, whatever's most efficient. This comes up with certain things, like people are like, well, if we do it this way, then it will work better. And I'm like, but that's like 30 more hours of work. If we just do this, we get the same end result. And just not caring about what the back end looks like, as long as we get the product we want, unless it's people.
So I'm going to get controversial with you.
Sure.
Okay. So I don't know if it's even controversial.
Yeah.
Are you more concerned about being as a principal as you make decisions, efficient or effective?
That's where efficiency really comes from, the purpose. And so a purpose I would tie to the effectiveness. And I think what people think of as efficiency, they think of as beauty on the back end of things that are ultimately just about participating in the economy. You know what I mean? It's like, well, my file system isn't as good as I want it to be. It's like, people do this. They spend 20 hours working on a perfect file system, and then they get frustrated when it breaks because people don't understand all the intricacies. So what you're saying is
it's not effective, it's not efficient.
It's only effective. Yeah, it's only effective for that person, right? It's that beautiful.
Right. It's like, no, that's exactly. So that's what I wanted, because I want to give a principle here. We have people that want to look efficient and they do things that are efficient. And by the way, everybody that knows me, I have my lists, I have my pattern. I strive to be efficient, but I have found myself, and I know of others that are really efficient about stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah, and this is actually, so coming from a software coding background, this is a real problem, because you have engineers who love to solve problems, and one of the classic problems that software engineers run into is over-optimization. So they will make a program way better than it needs to be, and they'll take 20 hours to do that when it actually doesn't help the product.
It doesn't make the effectiveness of that doesn't matter.
One of my favorite examples is I will leave his name out of it, but I have a friend who works at a very big software company, and he had a guy that needed to make an automatic script that just installed updates on people's computers. The Windows updates that you have to click yes to.
Yeah.
They made it so it would do that for them. And he's like, can you do this? And he was like, it should take like 2 hours, no big deal. Takes the guy 3 days, and he's had problems with this guy before, and he's like, what is going on? And he goes, and the guy had made an entire program that the user had to go through and click on to like include all the updates. They could do all this customization, and it had like this whole interface that the user can interact with. And he's like, I just needed it. The user doesn't have to do anything. I just needed it to like run in the background.
Because what will happen with the users?
They'll break it. Yeah,
they're not going to mess with that installing. Like what they're going to do, and now I hope this isn't the world's biggest rabbit trail, but I think it's real. Yeah. You do that third click, what is this, man? I'm done.
Oh no, it's exactly what I'm talking about. So here's the crazy thing.
So he spent
he spent 20 hours on this. It was beautiful. He did a great job. It's like someone somewhere could use that, but not what he made it for.
Right. So he made a bad decision because he didn't catch the principle that the guy wanted, or what.
He's not focusing on the purpose.
Right. And
right. And that's where you have to, like, that's where the branching effect comes in, that root effect where you have to, like, make sure that you are tied to the root system of, like, what are my ultimate goals? So if I'm at work, what are our ultimate goals? I'm not the best coder, but, like, not even close. But I've been able to make a good amount of money doing it because I understand what people need for their business. And I can't tell you how many times I've looked at a project and I've seen what other coders have done with it, and I've realized that I could solve it in 2 hours instead of 30 just because they needed something that wasn't the typical response. You know, it's like, oh, I'll just build this thing from scratch. And it's like, you know what, if we add this and this together, then it works. Yeah. And that's like, and it doesn't make any difference to the user. The user doesn't care. And I mean, that's in life too. Like, you know, and this is something I have to, you know, a good example of this is me cooking. Because I know I like to put in the extra work on cooking. And for me, I'm like, I put in another extra 2 to 3 hours of doing this. And then sometimes I'm like, I can't taste the difference in the dish.
No question.
And I look at that and I'm like, that was dumb. Like, what's the point? If there's no difference in nutrition, if there's no difference in taste, then I have wasted my time.
Right. So you're going to have to come up with a principle of cooking, make it as good as possible in the least amount of time.
Yeah.
So that you can still. All right. So I think as we close up here, tell me, you went like this with your fingers. Does you have a thought on that? Something else on that?
No. I obviously this is stuff that I'm passionate about. It's
what I've
done.
It's important that you be passionate because people are all the time getting bombarded with decisions.
Yeah.
And if they lack certain principles about how they want to live, they haven't. And here it is. It's taking time to think through who you are, who you want to be, and what you really want to do and accomplish. That will solve a lot of issues. If, for example, what did Apple, Steve Jobs wear every day?
Yeah, just a great example. I think Zuckerberg does this too, but
yeah, like the black t-shirt and jeans every day.
Black mock turtleneck.
Right. That way I don't have to make a decision. You know what? Your mom and I have made decisions. We've decluttered.
Yeah.
We've gotten rid of a bunch of stuff, especially clothes and stuff. Now that we're not straight black and jeans, but we are like, I don't need all this stuff.
Yeah.
I have enough stuff from Nations of Coaches to wear every day.
Yep.
Long story short is I think there are folks out there, and I even just shared this in one of my little blurb videos that we do on the YouTube channel. And if you want to subscribe to those.
Oh, there you go.
But I think it's imperative that people start to minimize their stuff.
Yeah.
Minimalist and then declutter. And that solves a lot of decisions. I can remember as a guy in my 30s getting ready for either speak or something and changing 2 or 3 times, saying, that doesn't look that good. And I don't know if anybody out in the crowd was going, that just doesn't look good. Right. It might have been. But KISS, keep it simple.
Well, they probably did it on the third outfit. There's always someone who doesn't like it, right? Like it just, and you put all this effort into the outfit and then you're so stressed that you don't respond to people right. There's all these different things. I think the thing that I would want to end with is that people might get this idea that I sit there and I get a decision and I look at this piece of paper that has like 30 principles on it. When we first went through this, I wrote down like 20 principles and I was just getting started. And what I realized is, and this is something that you have blessed me with as my dad, that you continue to read, you continue to grow, and you appropriate principles and you think about, just pay attention to what you're doing on a daily basis. And if you are reading or listening to podcasts or watching YouTube videos and you are growing, then those principles will integrate in your life. I had 20 principles off the top of my head, but I've never written them out because I just live with them. And so when you're faced with something, and I've seen this, people who just don't think about what they're doing and they don't grow, they're not learning all the time. And they look at something like, this is complicated. And I'm like, it's not complicated, right? Like I have ways that I do negotiation and I didn't even think about it because that's just, it flowed out from what I had learned. And so the important thing with all of this is if you continue to grow, don't be afraid to formulate things sometimes. That's not bad. But this isn't about creating a checklist. It's about integrating proverbs into your lives, integrating principles into your lives so that the decisions come naturally and they come quicker and they're better made.
Right. And that just, in all reality, it's more effective and efficient and less stressful. And by the way, with the busyness of life, any way that you can alleviate stress, I would encourage you to consider it. Hey, I think it's been a good podcast for us. I don't know how you feel, but folks, we know decisions are real and we know that they're going to come. Our prayer for you is that they would not be as stressful because you live more by principle than you do by fear and concerns.
Thank you, Dad. And if you took an extra step on your journey of personal growth today,
yes,
or you learned something, we ask that you would like, share, and subscribe so someone else can too.
Share and subscribe. We'd love for you to do that. We just want to help people. Thanks so much.
Love you, Dad.
Love you, buddy.